What is happening, everyone? Welcome to G-Ball Vision. Today we are talking about my most carried knives of the entire year. We're going to kick this thing off with the Brian Brown Jaeger M version 2. And before we get started, the version 3s will be dropping on December 15th, 2023. He will have flipper versions and flipperless versions. I am going for a flipper version, and I am excited as all hell. This is one of my favorite knives ever. You have an M390 hollow ground sheep's foot blade with a satin finish. You have a cutout for deployment there, and it works fantastic for the thumb flick and the reverse flick, and I cannot wait to get that flipper version. This is on skiffs, so it even has more strength around the pivot and slightly better action as well. Zirconium for the pivot collars. You have DLC coated titanium hardware, and then this thing has Zircuti for the backspacer and pocket clip, giving it a nice splash of color. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, gentleman style EDC knives ever, and it's one of the best looking ones. It's one of the best slicing EDCs. I mean, it is ultra thin behind the edge. The hollow ground blade is very well done. Riot OEM, Brian Brown Jaeger M version 2, definitely on my list for most carried knives of the entire year. This is a knife I got near the end of 2022, like right at the very end, and it's been one of my favorite knives since then. We're talking about the Renegade Provisions Co. God of Mischief, or it is also called the Gum. This thing is extremely well done from Renegade Provisions Co. and Riot. Chris Rossiter is the designer, and he does a fantastic job. He also did the Gungnir, and I believe he's got some other stuff in the works, but his first two knives are just absolute bangers. This one has a flat ground M390 Wharncliffe-esque style blade, and yeah, I would say it's definitely Wharncliffe-esque. Flat ground instead of hollow grind, but I don't mind the flat grind because it makes it a little bit of a tougher blade. Hollow grinds tend to be very slicey, but they can also be very prone to chipping as well because of how thin they are. This also has a satin finish. Love this thing. Look at that swedge going all the way down to the tip. So beautiful. And then we have jimping in the right places, right there behind that harpoon-ish look there. The cutout is very well done. And then you add in the front flipper tab. That works extremely well, guys. I love this thing. Titanium bolsters. This is a bolster lock. And then I opted for the black micarta, which looks amazing in person. You have a full titanium backspacer, which makes this thing even more comfortable. Nice little 50-50 choil going right up behind the edge there. If you're looking for a primo EDC knife that would double as a gentleman's knife that you could use as a work knife as well, the Renegade Gum is definitely high up on my list. This was my favorite knife of 2022, and it's one of my most carried knives of 2023. Got that nice milled clip, incredibly good action on top of all that. The ergos, the action, everything about this knife is absolutely fantastic. One of my most carried knives of the entire year. I got this about halfway through the year, but boy, has it found its way into my pocket a ton. The Vero Synapse XL. This is the Vero that I wanted the most, and had the this gave me a ton of trouble trying to get this knife. It took me well over a year and a half to actually get this knife. Finally, I was able to get one. I got the stone-washed M390 version, and then you have a nice drop point blade. Very versatile blade shape. You have a very minimal flipper tab there that works extremely well. Just whips that thing right out. Love using that flipper tab to get that big old blade out. And then you have a nice cutout for the reverse flick, which is also equally good. The detent is tuned nice and strong, very strong. Bestech does a great job on these titanium bolsters. I went with the natural micarta from Bestech because I really like their natural micarta. They do a great job with it, and it's held up very well. It's actually taking on a nice patina. Nice little titanium backspacer and pocket clip. Veros pretty much speak for themselves. They are well designed, well made by Bestech, and this is definitely one of my most carried knives of the entire year. One of my favorite knives in my entire collection, the Vero Synapse XL. Let's get to the next one. Next up, we got the Chavez Ultramar 229 Redemption with the Lee Williams kickstop. This is the Tanto version. You have an M390 satin finished Tanto blade. Look at that hollow grind. Oh man, this thing is so beautiful. Such a workhorse as well. This is a full titanium frame lock. You do have a titanium backspacer and your prototypical Chavez titanium skull pocket clip. They also offer a milled clip as well, but what's the point of getting a Chavez if you take that clip off, in my opinion? But I could see, for more discreet carry, changing it out. But I love the Lee Williams kickstop. I own several knives with the kickstop, and it is just it's an entirely different animal when it comes to flipper tabs and the kickstop. It's just a different feeling. It's a totally different mechanism because of how it's designed. When you actuate that flipper tab, it does disappear within the scales in here and does not protrude like your typical flipper tab does. So I love this thing. It is just very well done, overbuilt. This thing is an absolute beast. One of my favorite knives of the entire year, and it is definitely one of my most carried knives of the entire year. The Chavez 229 Tanto with the kickstop, definitely a banger. Next up, we got definitely one of my most carried knives of the entire year. This thing is an absolute slicing dream. Very comfortable. The quiet carry dripped in Vanx super clean. You have this nice thin drop point blade. It has a stonewash tumbled style finish to it. It is just a workhorse. It takes abuse and use very well. I tested the shit out of this thing at my old employment, and it is just a masterful pocket knife. It is so comfortable. This is a knife that you could have for the rest of your life, no question. With the Vanx, that will last you forever. It will not corrode. It's pretty damn tough stuff. It holds a good edge. The thumb studs are perfectly placed, and they actuate that blade very good. Look how thin that thing is. You have knurled titanium handles. This is a tie frame lock. You have the wire pocket clip there, and you have a little mini titanium backspacer. This thing is one of my favorite EDC knives ever, and that's why it has found its way into my pocket quite a bit this year. Love Quiet Carry and what they're doing. I look forward to what they continue to do because they just keep putting out some great models. I love Vanx and its capabilities. Let's go ahead and we'll get to the next one. So I can only really bring out one, but I have carried all my EMPs a ton this year. But one that stands out to me, this is one of my favorite knives of the entire year. I won this knife from John at EMP during a Instagram giveaway. This is a one-off EMP EDC L-Max Ronin. It has a satin finished blade. You have a hollow here, a flat here, all kinds of stuff going on with this thing. You have your prototypical fuller, mini fuller, and cutout, just like EMP EDC always does. And then you have this very pronounced front flipper tab that works very good. This is a Bestech OEM, and I absolutely love this thing, guys. The milling that has been done on the titanium scales. I love the gold accented hardware on this thing. And then I opted for a Zirku tie pocket clip on this as well. Now, this knife hasn't received a ton of use, but it has received a lot of pocket time. This is a knife that I plan on really taking care of because it's a one-off. Nobody else has this exact knife. He only did stonewash blades with this handle, so this has a satin blade, and then we threw on the Zirku tie pocket clip here. I love this thing and how unique it is. John stepping away from the nimble design to go with this one, and it's such a great knife. It's such a unique knife. Some people, it might not be their flavor, but the same people who say this isn't for them are the same people who want unique knives. Well, this is very unique in my opinion, and it's also a very useful blade shape as well. That Tanto blade is going to do a lot of things very well. It will poke good. It will slice good because of that hollow, and you could chisel and grind with that secondary edge. Love this thing. One of my favorite knives of all time, and definitely one of my most carried of the year. This next guy up, one of my favorite knives of the year, one of my most carried knives of the year, the Kwo Estow in Vanx Super Clean. Look at that sheep's foot blade. I absolutely love this thing. I've used the hell out of this thing this year, and it is an awesome EDC knife. Very comfortable, very useful blade shape. It is a great utility cutter. You have the Superman hole, the front flipper, the rear flipper. This thing is very fun to carry. You have the Damascus pivot collar there, orange peel titanium handle, open construction with the two standoffs. I believe those are anodized titanium, but I'm not 100% sure on that. They might be some sort of aluminum as well. That I'm not sure and couldn't ever find anything out about them. They might be aluminum or steel, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, that is really irrelevant. You also can get a milled clip. They are selling these now, and they come with the milled clip. They did not offer that when I bought this, but that's definitely what I would have preferred. Eventually, I will get a milled clip for this from Kwo, but the Kwo Estow in Vanx, this is a true workhorse. Love this thing, and one of my favorite knives of the year, no question about it, the Kwo Estow. I almost forgot about this one, but there was a point in time where I was carrying this thing nonstop. The Kaiser Escort coming in 20 CV steel. You have a nice stone washed drop point blade. You have dual thumb studs with that little fuller there. The fuller's not really accessible. That's more for aesthetics, but the thumb studs are placed perfectly to get a lot on them. Thumb flick, reverse flick. And then this is using Kaiser's clutch lock, which is their adjustable crossbar lock. It is so well done. Very rigid, very tough lock. Love the crossbar lock, and I love what Kaiser has done with it. You have black aluminum for your handle, and then I threw a TRM deep carry titanium clip on this thing because I loved it so much, and I still do, that I thought it deserved a titanium pocket clip on it. Open construction. This thing has incredibly good action for a crossbar lock. I love this thing, and I actually need to get this back out and start carrying it again. But this is a great knife. It's a good size, comfortable, primo materials, nice and lightweight as well. They offer a couple different versions now of this knife, but this is the one I would definitely recommend if you can hack it. But Kaiser Escort with the clutch lock, nice little EDC knife, no question about it. Definitely one of my most carried knives of the entire year. So I have a few newer ones, fairly new, but have been carried a ton. I'm sure I have some others that have been carried a little more than this one, but this has been in my pocket a ton. The Concept Fen Rear, this thing is extremely well done. Concept knocked this out of the park. It's a Greg Schaub design. You have this crazy looking drop point, trailing-ish point blade with the harpoon and the 50-50 choil. You just lock in right there and you have a ton of control. S35 VN for the steel. You have this gold accented hardware from the studs to the pivot to all your body screws. And then you have a titanium pocket clip with a titanium secondary onlay along with the marbled carbon fiber primary onlay. This is a titanium liner lock and it is extremely well done. Front flipper tab is very well executed. Thumb studs are very comfortable. There's a reason that these knives have been, or this knife has been very popular since it was released. They are very hard to get at most times of the year. And this is a knife that I waited for, wanted very badly. And finally, I seen the version that was just meant for me. And this one is it. The Concept Fen Rear. This is a stabbing, slicing machine. Very comfortable in hand. I love its profile. I love the design. Greg Schaub knocked this out of the park along with Concept. Definitely one of my most carried knives of the year. This knife also deserves to be on this list. This is also a fairly new knife to me. But this thing has been getting a ton of pocket time. The Fen Rear in this, I haven't had as long as some of the other knives on this list, but they have been receiving a ton of pocket time. This isn't a stranger to anyone, or shouldn't be. The Veed RS Chaos. This is the White Mountain Knives exclusive in LMAX. This thing is an absolute tank. This is one of my favorite knives, if not my favorite knife of the entire year to come out. Coming in LMAX blade steel, you have a nice Wharncliffe blade there. Satin finish, you have a pill-shaped hole there and a rear flipper tab for deployment. This is Veed's first attempt at the button compression lock, and did they ever nail it, guys? This thing has been through a lot of testing lately, and it is locked up tighter than an ant's ass. I cannot get this thing to fail at all. It is very comfortable in hand. You got that nice 50-50 choil there to choke right up onto that edge, get right up onto that tip. I love how they did the button. It is just so well executed from Veed. Titanium pocket clip, full length titanium backspacer. They absolutely crushed this, guys. I've been shouting it from the rooftops. This is phenomenal. If you can get the LMAX, that's where I would go. If you can't, I would definitely settle for the M390. Either way, you're getting an awesome, well-made knife with an extremely strong lock. Good ergos, great blade shape, whether you get the Wharncliffe or the sheep's foot. They did two blade styles, and they did a couple different versions. I highly recommend this knife if you're looking for, a semi-premium production knife that you can use and is going to hold up. I definitely recommend the RS Chaos. Let me know what you guys think of this list. Some of my most carried knives of the entire year. Some of my favorite knives of the entire year. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button before you head out. Really helps the videos when you thumb and cummy on the video. Really helps them out. Thummy and cummy. Don't forget it. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed and you watch this whole video, you might as well subscribe now because you are a G-baller. There's no question about it. Hit that subscribe button. Become a part of the G-baller family. And I will catch you guys on that next one, baby.